Hello, everyone. Welcome to our pre recorded show, Time to Tell. We're going to be talking with Donna Jensen tonight. This is Yet Stand Inc., and this is our Thrive, Flourish, Prosper Survivor Conversations. Hi, Donna.
Hi, it's so good to see you. How are
It's,
you?
it's good to see you. I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for, being willing and, courageous enough to
Oh,
share your story with us. We appreciate it. And so, again, everyone, this is pre recorded. You will be able to see it on my social media on this coming Wednesday, which will actually be tomorrow, the 14th of December, 2022. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to jump in and start asking some questions.
okay.
All right. So, Donna,
Yeah.
could you tell me when you were sexually assaulted?
The sexual assault started when I was 7 and continued until I was 12. And my abuser was my father. Actually, the physical abuse started in infancy, and the psychological abuse continued until he died when I was 46.
Hmm. So, when you say the physical, you mean so in infancy he was like sexually what touching you
Not
and do?
sexually, no, it was
Okay, it
physical
was.
abuse, yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
yeah. And then that turned at some point to sexual
Yeah,
abuse.
at
Mhm.
about age 7. Yep.
7.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and did you tell anyone?
I wish.
Mm, mm-hmm.
I didn't tell anyone till I was in my 30s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think? What do you think was happening? Was going through your mind at the time that prevented you from telling?
Well, the primary thing was that after every assault, my father would say, "If you tell anyone, I'll kill you."
Mm,
Um, in fact, he didn't even use the word if, it was, "You tell anyone and I'll kill you." And that, that went in pretty deep and pretty strong.
mm-hmm.
And, it's still the echo of that command can still occur even now when
Mm,
of course, I've been doing, interviews like this for a while now, but anytime I'm about to do something new and different,
mm,
coming out in the world, I'm bringing my project to the State House here in Massachusetts for
mm,
legislative stuff that's happening in April. And just knowing there was a point at which, when I'm making the commitment, I can feel that tug
mm,
still. I mean, I don't anywhere near follow it, and it's
mm-hmm.
very momentary, but it's deeply embedded.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other side of that is that um, we were in a very small apartment. My mother claimed that she never knew anything, but she knew something, and never invited me in any way to, what's wrong, honey? And actually,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah. Were you an only child?
my brother was 9 years younger than I was.
Okay.
So he was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 when the abuse stopped.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if he endured any of that?
To my best of my knowledge, no.
Okay.
You know, to the
Mm-hmm.
best of my knowledge, I
Yeah.
know my father. I don't remember my father even physically abusing him, but he would terrorize him a lot. Yell at
Mm.
him and beat on his crib headboard, and to shut him up. He hated children crying, which is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
so I mean, I know he terrorized my brother and his own.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that that had
Yeah.
an effect, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So because of the threat, at no time there wasn't anyone that you really felt safe enough that you
No,
could
no,
could
no,
confide in. Yeah.
no.
Mhm.
There was never enough safety
Mhm. Yeah.
to breach that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did all of this um cause you to feel about, yourself, about people, about the world, about love even?
Oh my.
Right,
Let's see.
right.
Um,
Ah.
it made me fearful in, certain situations. I would just get terrified if I was around men that were inebriated. My
Mm.
father was always drunk when
Oh.
he came into my room.
Mhm.
He was a serious alcoholic.
Mm.
So alcoholic men, males who are alcoholic, they still get under my skin. I can't stand being around them. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, huge fear, um,
Mhm.
mistrust. I grew up having to. I had my healing process has really been at working in building relationships with other people where I can trust them, because, trust is like that was broken very early on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think another way that it affected me is, well, my mother was very depressed, which I wouldn't have said that as a child, or even, it wasn't until I became aware of what depression was about.
Uh-huh.
And I spent a lot of time performing for my mother, trying to make her happy,
Mm. Mhm.
which turned me into a very performative person. Um, and when it's done out of when I'm when I'm centered and feeling good about myself, it's a wonderful thing to have, don't we know?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
but there's a way in which performing is a protection
Mm.
that I sort of put that cloak on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you and I get the performing piece. What were
Mm,
some of the other coping sort of mechanisms that you protective type of
mm,
behaviors that you took on, especially while, it was happening
yeah.
and were there, I don't know, was there a place maybe that you could go even if it was by yourself where you
Well,
felt
so
like
interesting because I'm just about to uh, do a piece of writing for another survivor who's a sculptor, and she does trees.
yeah.
She sculpts trees, and I
Mhm.
told her, um, I can't tell you how many survivors have told me there's a tree in their life.
Mhm.
And
That's
I
so
had
true.
one next to our apartment, and
Yeah.
I would crawl up into the is it called
Mhm.
notch of the
Mhm.
tree and a branch, and
Mhm.
I was just feel so safe, you know,
Yeah.
for it would hold me.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Another was, my grandparents who lived far away on a farm in North Dakota, my mother's family, who were extremely positive, and I was just like the piece of joy in their life. And I
Mhm.
only got to see them about twice a year, but it was enough. It went in there that these two people valued me,
Mhm.
and I really clung. I clung. Is that a word?
Clung, yes.
I clung to to them, and
Mhm.
the love that they just even the way they looked at me,
Aw,
you know
yeah.
what that loving
Yeah.
look is
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
Um, and my maternal grandmother had a bank of lilac bushes outside the farmhouse near where she would hang clothes.
Mm.
And she would lay me, or even when I got older, she'd lay out a blanket, and I'd lay in the yard and play with while she was doing the laundry. And these lilac bushes were and then we moved to a place that had lilac bushes in the backyard, and there was another place where I would go, and
Mhm.
I don't even think I, consciously knew that there's
Mhm.
that those bushes remind me of grandma's spot, and it's a safe spot,
Yeah.
but I would
Yeah.
go there, and I know that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've talked
Mm,
to several, you're right. I've talked to several survivors who speak of having usually it was a tree, but nature in general
yeah,
kind of seemed
nature in
to
general,
be
absolutely,
a real saving space.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um yeah, for my I wrote a play, Yet I Stand, and my symbolism or my picture for that is a tree.
Uh-huh,
Is the tree,
yeah.
and not that it was something that, that I went to or anything when I was a kid,
Oh, you
but
did?
I didn't, but I remember, one day I was driving, down the road, and I was thinking about the play, and what I
Right?
want to call it and that kind of thing, and as I was driving, there was just, like, this line of trees,
Mm,
and it had been, after there was a storm. And so I was seeing, branches down and and just kind of, debris from the trees, but they were still standing. And there was just
mm,
something about that. And it just
mm,
came in my,
yeah,
Yet I stand, and and how I think in that even now I kind of feel like that, regardless of some of the breaking and some of the scars and wounds and, you
right.
know, still standing.
Still standing after all these years. I'm
Still
still
standing.
standing. That's a
I
great
l
song.
I love it, I love it.
Yeah.
Um
I just wanna say the other thing is, in my childhood, starting around, in grade school, I made friends with, another little girl, and we became just, inseparable. And that happened all the way through up into my teens where I would find and,
mhm,
girlfriends.
mhm.
And it was
Yeah,
very safe to be with them. And,
yeah.
you know, by the
Mhm.
time when we were in junior high, we named ourselves the Blue Angels.
Oh,
And
wow.
we had bomber jackets,
Mhm,
blue satin bomber
mhm.
jackets with blue angels embroidered on the
I
back.
love
I
that, I
know.
love that.
But, that was an incredibly, safe place, and
Mhm,
I got in a lot of trouble because I would stay out all the time with my
mhm.
friends, and I would
I
get in
was the
trouble for staying.
same. Yeah, I was the same way, yeah,
Oh, you
yeah.
were?
Oh, yeah, the exact same way, yeah. I mean, they were, my friends were everything, and yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely
Yeah,
the people that I trusted most in the world.
of
And
course.
I'm wondering, do you know, were any of the friends that you made, do you know if any of them had ever been through,
Well,
any
we were we stay some of us stayed connected. I wanna say there were about a half a dozen of us,
Mhm.
but now, they've all passed except for
Oh,
2. There's 3
okay.
of us left,
Mhm.
and, one who I was actually the closest to, Karen Jean, um, but she didn't tell me about her experience, of incest until after I came out with my play, and she came to see the play, and she went,
Oh,
"Whoa,"
wow.
and we never told each other
Never
anything.
told each other. And never necessarily, when you think back to that, do you think that there were any, I don't know, any kind of signs maybe that were happening that in the moment and the time as a kid, maybe you didn't pick up on, but
You know, I didn't I don't know.
mhm,
You know what I
mhm.
mean? It was
Yeah,
the times we used to call all we do is laugh and scratch. I don't know if
yeah.
you ever heard that expression.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
It was just we would listen to music and dance
Mhm.
and do
Yeah,
each other's hair and,
yeah. Mhm.
talk about boys,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and skip
Mhm,
school together and
mhm.
all that sort of armoring,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
We
yeah.
never talked about
Mhm.
I mean, they all knew my father was an alcoholic. He was the most vocal of all the fathers,
Mm.
and, they were all afraid of him.
Mhm.
Nobody wanted to be around my dad,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember I had a couple of friends, I was in high school and a couple of close friends and,
Mm.
I knew, about their, sexual abuse. They knew about
Oh, you did?
mine.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was something where we told each other at some point and then that
Uh-huh.
was it. It's like, don't talk about it
Right.
anymore.
Just
And
lay it on
like you
the
said,
table and now
just
bury it.
yeah, just try to be normal and just
Yeah.
have a
Yep.
fun life. And that
Mhm.
was the thing. I mean, we were all about, and I know that was the what we were just all about fun. Let's just have fun, you
Right.
know. And the same, I got in so much
True.
trouble because I was always,
Yep.
out with my friends and breaking curfew and all
Yep.
those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were my safe space.
Exactly.
um, so you said you started speaking about it. What got you to that point where you started speaking about it?
Um, well, I think what happened, I was in a peer counseling community,
Mhm.
and I was actually in somewhat of a leadership position. It wasn't somewhat. I was in a leadership position in it was an international group, and it was in Brooklyn, and um, a woman who was in the group with me one night, I had said this is God, this is the 1980s, okay?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I remember saying to her, it's amazing. We went to that workshop, that weekend workshop, and they had a group for people that were incest survivors, and they didn't have to scream into a pillow, which is what we all had to do because we were in some kind of semi-public place. And so you had to, and we believed in, letting your feelings out. And if you have to scream, you got to scream.
Mhm.
But you'd scream into a pillow. But because they were incest survivors, it would have been too triggering.
Triggering, yeah.
And I must have told her this 3 times, and it finally got to her, and she said, "Donna, I wanna read you something." And she pulled out a newsletter from our group, and a woman had written an article about coming out as a survivor. And by the time she was halfway through the article, I was weeping on her lap saying, "Me too, me too." So
Mm.
and, it was like it was completely safe around her. She was the one that brought it up in a
Mhm.
fairly innocuous way.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah.
that was and I was like 33, I think, was the first time. Then I didn't tell anybody else but a few folks in the peer counseling group. But I
Mhm.
would work on the feelings I was having.
Mm.
But for the first 2 years in that counseling situation, all I would do, what we would do is we would trade time. You each would take a half an hour to, express whatever feelings you were having about whatever.
Mhm.
And for my half hour every week for 2 years, all I did was cry.
Mm.
I didn't say anything. I didn't explain anything. I didn't question. It was like I was weeping all the tears that I couldn't as a child.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, there's language in our tears, in our silence, there's
Exactly.
language.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Mhm. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So from there, what were kind of your I did want to go back though to when you were a kid. Did you have any you hear a lot that sexual assault survivors have like suicidal a lot of suicidal
Mm,
thoughts, even
mm,
attempts, or maybe
mhm,
get involved in addictions and alcoholism,
mhm.
or
Right.
just these different. Did you find
Well,
any?
I had one little, what can I say, episode where I almost considered killing myself, and
Mm,
I had finally, what I call, escaped. I left home right after I got out of high school, and I immediately left Wisconsin and moved to LA.
oh wow.
Yeah. I had one friend out there, or 2. Anyway, I just wanted to get a far, and that's a whole other long story, but,
Hmm.
um, I was in a car accident, and I was in the hospital, and I was in traction, and I
Mm,
felt completely, spent, just, I was completely cornered. Life was just, what the heck am I going to do? And I
Mhm.
remember being in a room with a older woman who had lung cancer, and she had a
Mm.
really bad cough. And I got up one night, I slipped out of my traction. It was in like this thing. And I went in the bathroom, and then we had glasses.
Mhm.
This is the 60s. I
Mm.
remember picking up the glass, and I was thinking about hitting it against the faucet and slitting my wrists.
Mhm.
And suddenly I hear Dolores coughing,
Mhm.
and she yells out, "Hey kid, what are you doing in there? Come out here and crank me up." And I realized that she might be the one to find me, and she was such a sweet one. And so I put the glass down and I went out and helped her. I
Mm.
still wonder to this day if she suspected something.
Mhm.
I don't know, but thank
Yeah.
goodness she called out to me. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that was the only time that I
Mhm.
ever felt, life was completely not worth living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would what are your parents still
No, they're both
alive? They're both
both
passed. Okay.
passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um yeah. And was there ever any, I don't know, conversation with you and your
Confrontation?
anything like that with
Mm,
with them or either one
okay,
or
how long we got here? No.
oh boy.
No,
You give it
well,
highlights.
um, what happened was my dad got cancer, and, um, pretty bad, serious cancer. He would be dead within a
Mm.
year and a half. And my younger brother was getting very angry with me because my father he needed a lot of attention, and he was high maintenance, of course, anyway, and then with the cancer even more so. And my brother got mad at me for not coming home more often, even though I lived in Massachusetts and they're in Wisconsin. But he wanted me to come home more often to give him a break and to help out
Mhm.
and so forth and so
Mhm.
on. And he said, "Donna, I know you and dad never got along, but," and I said, "You don't even know the half of it."
Right.
And I stopped the conversation at that,
Mhm.
but he and his wife figured it out,
Mm.
or guessed it, surmised it. And he told my mother that he thought that's why I wasn't coming home, that dad
Mm.
had molested me, is the way.
Mhm. Mhm.
So my mother I called the next time I talked to my mother, I think I called her, and she was just distraught. And she said, "I have to ask you a question. Did your father ever molest you?" And it was at that point I had to decide, okay, am I going to keep up the facade, or am I going
Mhm.
to? And I just said, "Yeah, ma, he did." And she just lost it.
Mm.
Um, and then my brother confronted my dad, and my dad said he couldn't remember ever doing such a thing, which that's what they
Mm.
usually say, or something to that effect. And
Mhm.
so my brother decided to believe my father
Mm.
instead of me.
Mm.
And my mother said, "Well, he had those blackout times, so I believe the both of you because you wouldn't lie about such a thing." So I was like, "Okay, mom."
Wow.
Sitting on
Yeah.
the fence her whole life long about everything.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I pretty much lost my paternal side of my family
Mm. Mhm.
uh, because of that.
Yeah.
And I've only recently, in the last, it was like 25, my brother finally died. So I was able to reconnect with his kids, but
Hmm.
a long
Okay.
stretch.
Yeah. 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 So over the years, especially as an adult,
Mm,
what was the effect on your relationships in general?
yeah,
What were
yeah.
they like for you?
Well, ironically, relationships with women were fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were always my safe place, starting with my maternal grandmother right up to all my girlfriends. And then I got involved in the women's movement. Men, not so much.
Yeah.
But I am heterosexual, so I would have these relationships, but they were
Mhm.
never full. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mhm.
Um, they were not fully realized. And it wasn't until
Mm.
I was really healing for oh God, quite a while before I finally found the guy that I'm with now, and we've been together for 40 years, but it's a lot of work.
Wow, a
But
lot of
yeah,
work.
you know,
A lot of work for not
for
just you,
me.
but both, but yeah, but how about in the for both of you, like in the relationship? Like, did he find that he had to maybe, I don't know, get any sort of
Well, we've gone to counseling a couple of times over
Mhm.
the years for when there have been sort of places where we really got snagged. But I want to say that from the beginning, he was very okay and relaxed and empathetic
Mm.
with what had happened to me. I mean, he's always been very sorry that it happened to me,
Mhm.
but he was just the right kind of partner for a
Yeah.
survivor. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
he had a very functional childhood, which
Mm.
helped a lot
You're
too.
right. Yeah. 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 Well, God bless you. I'm glad you found that.
Thank you. Yes.
So it sounds like you've gone through a lot of, different things in order to, heal, if you
Oh
will,
yeah.
recover.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you've done?
So my healing journey, I mean, I have the list, I've got a definite list. So I want to say the first part of my healing journey was just leaving home at age 18. And, like they say, getting out of Dodge.
Hmm.
I think that even though I wasn't consciously aware of, I'm now going to start, you know, healing from
Hmm.
incest.
Uh-huh.
And also, starting at about 24, I got very involved in the women's movement and I built 3 women's centers.
Hmm.
So, activism
Mm.
around mistreatment of women
Yeah.
uh, was very healing for me.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until the third women's center when I finally owned my experience as an incest survivor. And that's when well, as I was talking about before, the peer counseling
Hmm.
started doing a lot of work. And I still have 2 peer counselors that I had from back then that we're still together and
Mhm,
giving each other attention.
mhm,
And I've been in 2 uh, group therapies where it's a therapist running the group, one for women who are survivors and one that was a mixed group um, of men and women. I remember it was the first time it was in the group, and I said to the man across from me, his name was Corey, I'll never forget. And this is a long time ago. And
mhm,
I don't trust you at all. I'd never said that out loud to a man,
mhm,
and I didn't trust any of them.
mhm. Yeah.
So that was very healing.
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
Building a family of choice,
Mm.
very important. People that are like brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles. I really needed that family of choice, especially when I came out to my family of
So you
origin.
Mhm.
I got slammed,
Yeah.
and I needed another family.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
so also, I went to something I call incest camp.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
called the Meadows. It's out in Phoenix, Arizona, and I believe it still exists.
Wow.
It's mostly for people that are recovering from alcoholism, but they also have a special program for incest survivors.
Hmm.
And it was a week long, and I actually went with a good friend who's also a survivor, and it was remarkable because sort of this, intensive immersion was a really
Mhm.
good thing to do. Another healing thing that's been for me forever since the 70s is journaling. I journal all the time. That grew into writing, uh,
Mhm.
and that's a big part of my healing.
Mhm.
In fact, the first chapter of my book is called Writing as Medicine.
Oh, writing as medicine.
Yeah, yeah. So, And I've done individual therapy especially with two different therapists at two different junctures in my life, especially with the process of EMDR. Have you heard of
Mhm.
that?
I've heard of it, EMDR.
Yeah,
Mhm.
really good. Oh man, I highly recommend it. And then I've also done healing work that's very much body work.
Mm.
So craniosacral therapy, I did a lot
Mm.
of work with that where, because they say your trauma can be held in your
Yeah.
body,
Yeah. Mhm.
and a lot of good work through that. I highly recommend that to anybody.
Mm.
Acupuncture,
Mhm.
yoga and qigong, very healing.
Yeah.
And then I wrote a play, which you know about doing that. What She Knows: One Woman's Way Through Incest to Joy.
What she
And
knows.
it is my story of
Mhm.
surviving. And I have a guitarist with me who accompanies me. We have great music in the play.
So your play is just yourself pretty
Yes,
much, and
one
then you
woman
have
show.
the
Yeah,
guitarist,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In interesting, uh-huh.
And then I founded my non-for-profit organization called Time to Tell,
Time to tell.
and that's to help um, for anybody that has a story that where they were affected by incest or child sexual abuse,
Mhm.
be able to be for their story to be told and for it to be heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all the work I do in the organization is around that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I also, after the play, then I wrote my memoir, which was only going to be a little pamphlet that I would hand out at the play with resources for any survivors.
Mhm.
And so we made a little pamphlet, and then I thought, oh, I should add to it a bit. And, oh, maybe I should add that. And before you know it, I'm writing a book.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that got published in 2017. And just writing it was
Mhm.
so healing,
Mhm.
so healing. And then
Yeah.
being able to share it with so many survivors and
Mhm.
talk with people when they read it and reach out to me. It's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's Healing My Life from Incest to
Incest
Joy?
Joy.
Okay, and that book can be found, like, can you get it on
You can
Amazon
get it
at
on
least?
Amazon, you can get it on my website,
Okay,
and you don't have to pay.
okay.
Amazon doesn't get any of my money.
Oh, okay, let me put that on there. Is it time to tell dot
Org.
time to tell dot org? Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
alright, good.
And then,
Alright.
keeping in with this about just, because the more I tell, every time I tell, I heal,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm.
And so, in 2019, I started producing, a documentary, which has excerpts of my play and, me reading my play and parts of my book.
Okay.
Also, I'm in a dialogue in the movie with a very good friend who's an ally, who's not a survivor. And
Mhm.
really, the movie, the documentary, I use it in workshop form, where survivors come online usually with, and they have an ally of their own, and they watch it together,
Mhm.
and then I put them in separate discussion groups with a
Mhm.
clinician for the survivors and for the allies to talk about what this is like to be in this relationship. And
Mhm. Mhm.
really good. The
Yeah, that sounds
dialogue
good.
is great in
Yeah. And
how
now
to
what's the name of that?
telling is healing.
Okay, Telling is Healing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah. And
Wow.
recently, well, now it's our second year with my Time to Tell organization. We produce, well, it was the last time it was an e-zine. It's like a magazine, only it's online,
Mhm.
called Beneath the Soil. And this is collection of works by queer survivors, different
Oh.
forms of art
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
they've used in expression. And we were actually calling for more submissions, and that you can go to my website again,
Mhm.
the Beneath the Soil. We
Mhm.
love to get your submissions. Anybody wants to send their artwork to us, and we're hoping to
Okay.
have it be on a hard copy magazine this year. We've raised a bit more money, and that's what.
Uh-huh. Nice, nice.
And
So
the
healing, what is I guess what does that feel like? Like right like now when you say healing, what does that feel like? What is
when
that?
there is healing,
Mhm.
I'm experiencing joy more than pain.
Hmm. Okay.
And the more they heal, the less pain I'm sitting in, and the more I'm I'm mindful of each moment. I'm looking out my window here, these beautiful trees. I'm looking at you and having our conversation. I'm right here and now. I'm
Mhm.
not back there
Mhm.
or worried that I'm going to go back there.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the more I heal, the less I go, the less I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. I want to know what it was. Yeah, what it was
Okay.
for you. So were there any times where you ever felt like what happened was your fault?
Um, oh, sure. I mean, um, don't kids think everything that
It's
goes
their
wrong is
fault.
their
Yeah.
fault?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you, uh, and I'm not sure I was conscious of it at the time, but I think the older I got, the more I had this sense of shame.
Mm.
Um, and I think an even bigger piece for me was being ashamed of coming from a family where this happened.
Mhm.
I really had to work hard at accepting that none of that shame belonged to me,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know. But
Yeah.
it was work. It was part of my
Yeah.
healing
Yeah.
work to, you know,
Yeah.
let that go,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What about triggers currently? If you feel any triggers, like what are some of your triggers, and then how do you sort of get through get through them?
It's funny. I think I mentioned before inebriated men can
Right.
just um,
Mhm.
and one of the things I've realized too is when I can, I remove myself from the physical place at which this is.
Mhm.
I can walk out, even if it's the host of a party,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I can say, I really need to leave now. I don't have to tell them why necessarily, but I can just remove myself.
Move yourself. I love that.
Um, there's also, there's just this, I think I said earlier, this thing about you tell anyone I'll kill you, so you shouldn't do anything that's going to bring awareness to it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and that's why I have my family of choice to help them all remind me that I'm brave and strong and I should be doing exactly what I'm doing and there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. You know, you really I need to surround myself
Uh-huh.
with positive reinforcement people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think another trigger for me is when I make a mistake.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, how can I say this? I mean, it can be a little thing like um, I was supposed to join in a phone call, a Zoom call earlier this week, and I
Mhm.
messed up.
Mhm.
Wrong
Mhm.
date, wrong time, whatever. And I could just feel the shame washing over me, and that to me is, it goes back
Mhm.
to it was all my fault back then.
Mhm. Mhm.
So anything that's my fault, I should be ashamed of, you know.
Gotcha. Do you have any sort of like grounding type of things that you do? Things that maybe help you in the moment, maybe to calm down,
Oh,
to
yeah.
bring
Well,
you
I
into.
have several breathing exercises that I've learned through
Mm-hmm.
Qigong and um, yoga.
Mm-hmm.
There's various deep breathing, even the simplest being you inhale twice, deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
just do that 3 or 4 times, and that can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another is with Qigong to shake like a tree. We talked about trees before.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like your arms or your branches, and you just shake them out.
Uh-huh.
That when I'm scared or upset, if I'm upset or
Mm-hmm.
rattled, I
Mm-hmm.
always call it rattled. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Shaking like a tree can actually bring me, center me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Do you ever, like when you were a child, I mean, do you ever actually like go to a tree anymore? Is that,
well,
and
I live on a 5-acre lot that's
okay.
all wooded, and yes, so
Yes.
I am
Yeah.
I am in the
Yeah.
trees all the time.
Oh. I
Yeah,
love that.
absolutely. Yeah,
I love
and
that.
also, I love going every chance I get to the beach. Ocean
Mm.
is also
Mhm.
extremely
Mhm.
healing and calming to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I love the ocean, love the water. Yeah, just the sound and
exactly.
the movement of it
Yeah,
and all. It's just something, yeah, very
yeah, and
very calming
somebody
and
told me
peaceful.
there's, like, actual eons or something that
Mm,
water, the ocean.
I would not be surprised.
Me I believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm in a person
absolutely.
writing.
Yeah.
Writing can really get it out of me and onto the page, and I can
Mhm.
let it go. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
strong believer in writing,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
the last thing I didn't mention of the things I do is, I lead writing circles in
Okay.
Time to Tell. We have
Mhm.
4 online writing circles where survivors come and we write together, and then we read our writing, and we give each other
Mm.
positive feedback about
Mhm.
what we've just written. So
Love
it's
that.
yeah, it's a really wonderful.
Yeah.
I love doing it. Yeah.
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 So, what would you tell someone who, they've been through sexual assault, sexual abuse, in whatever way it might have been incest or whatever? What would you? They don't know what to do. Don't know where to turn. Don't know what would you kind of tell that person?
Well, the first thing I would say is healing is possible. You
Hmm.
can get through this.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just
Hmm.
I just think that's a really important thing to know.
Yeah.
Um, and the other the starting would be there are so many books now. There's so many books out. And probably still one of the best first books is to me is Courage to Heal by
Mm.
um, Ellen Bass and Laura Davis.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It's a very thick book, but it's
Mm.
a really good starter for
Mm.
someone. And my book.
Mhm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And uh, I think the most important thing is that first you've got to tell yourself that you're a
Mm,
survivor, and then find just one person that
mhm,
maybe you can tell.
mhm. Yeah.
Start little by little, little by little.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So what do
Yeah.
you think is important for, survivors to hear from others? If they go to someone.
I believe you, and it wasn't your fault. Period.
Love that. Yeah,
That's
period.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Those
that's
two.
it.
Just tell 'em
Yeah,
I'm running
yeah.
I'm running workshops for therapists now with
Mm,
mine, and if that's all you tell your clients, you're going to do just fine.
yeah. Yeah.
They'll tell you everything else. Just,
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
you, and it wasn't your fault.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oftentimes people do feel like, I don't know what I would say. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. And it really is as simple as that. Yeah. If you don't
it
say
is
anything, you don't say anything else.
nothing.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
say anything
That's it.
else.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really don't. And just say, "I'm here for you."
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's worth gold.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Gold. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very good.
most of the time, survivors are not going to tell you more than you're ready to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what am I? I don't know if I can hear what it is they're going to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. They're only going to tell you what you can handle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what has been the reaction like to your book, to the play, and how often and now and with the play, how often do you perform?
Well, I used to do 2 to 3 performances a year, but
Okay.
that all got the kibosh on that from the pandemic. So
Mm-hmm.
just now starting to, sort of gear up when we're gonna, start doing performances again because I love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was the first part of your question?
What's been the reaction? Like what
Okay,
kind of
so
what
the reaction is, well, first of all, because I'm adamant about putting the word incest in my titles,
mm-hmm.
um, there are a whole bunch of people that won't even come.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate, I
Mm-hmm.
know, but I also know I have to have that word out there. It's important to me. And everybody that does read the book or see the play is, wow, I'm so glad I did. It wasn't anything like I was afraid it was, that thing too about,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
afraid of what it is it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I get very good responses from
Yeah.
both pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's
The
good. I
ones that come.
To come, right, 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 yeah, and I'm finding that, yeah, I'm finding that with the play. The
Yeah,
same kind of thing. People, don't wanna come, but those
right,
that do, like you said,
right.
they're always glad that they did, and,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
And with the play, I'm sure this happens with you because with my play, so many people come up to me afterwards.
Mhm.
They're not usually the first ones that come up to me. They kind of hang back.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone.
Never told. Oh,
Guess
I'll tell
what?
you. Yeah. 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 It is that it's amazing to me how many out there,
Mhm.
and, that's one of the first things, like, I've never told this,
Right.
never told this. Yeah.
Well, they say it's around 42 million in
Mm.
our country. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And, yeah, and it's really sad that, especially when this is something that's happened in childhood, and
Yeah.
and what did they say? The average, what, before people start speaking about it is probably around what, 30s, 40s? Is that
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it was even later. It used to be, I mean, I think the generation before me,
Mm.
they all died with
With
the
it.
information.
Yeah, never. Yeah, never.
Nobody.
Yeah.
But I also think that the ones coming up now are coming out earlier,
For
which is
sure, for sure. Yeah,
because
yeah.
we're all up ahead of them, and there
Right.
are resources now that we didn't have.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
in my 20s, there was nothing around.
Mm-mm. No,
Nothing. Nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
Even my
Yeah.
30s. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So
Wow. And well, I'm so glad that
well,
there's
thanks to us.
I'm so glad that there's organizations like yours, the books, and
Yeah.
just all of that, the
Yeah.
advocacy, and all of those things. Actually, when we first got on, you were talking about something you're involved with. It was some
Yeah.
legislation in
Yeah. Yeah.
Massachusetts. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that?
A little bit. I
Okay.
should know more about the legislation, but I don't yet. But it's
Okay.
going to be during April in the which is Child Abuse Prevention Month,
Mm-hmm.
or childhood sexual abuse prevention
Yeah,
month.
I've heard it as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
October is Child Abuse Prevention Month. This is Sexual Assault Month,
Mhm.
April. So a state senator here, her name is Joan Lovely, what a name,
Yeah.
and a survivor.
Oh.
And she came and saw an exhibit that I was part of with another organization called the Survivor Nest Project. And she said, I'm going to introduce my legislation, and we're having what they call a legislative briefing at the State House in April. And so one of the things I do with my writing groups is I have a moderator for each of them, and after everybody's done their writing, then the moderators make a collage with all the images from the writing.
Mm.
It's beautiful collages. And I wish I could show you one, but anyway, we're gonna blow them up to like 18 by 18 and put them on easels, and they're going to be all around where the briefing is happening.
Oh, okay.
I know. And
I
then
like
a
that.
couple of survivors are going to read
Oh,
some of the
wow.
writing. And so, and her legislation is to increase sexual safety for children in the schools here in Massachusetts. I do
Okay.
know but I don't have the super
Mhm,
particular,
mhm,
but
mhm. Yeah.
I'm really
I
excited.
Yeah, I've noticed as we were talking and even talking offline that there's like a really creative side to you and to
Yeah.
how you go about doing things involving the arts.
And
I
I want
like
to
that.
say, yeah, well, I early on when I decided, because I've been an activist all my life, and when I finally decided I wanted to take on activism for this issue, um, I realized, and I had enough artists in my life, that the arts have a way of changing hearts
Mm,
that, talking heads don't.
mhm.
It's just a different, for people to experience inquiry through the arts is just a better, I think it's a deeper way for people to change their minds.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's really why I've, promoted using the arts
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Plus, my creative, I think that's another, what I want to say, evidence of healing.
Mhm,
The more healing I do, the closer I get to, or the bigger my sense of creativity,
mhm,
using my imagination uh,
mhm.
happens,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I think there's a direct correlation. So,
yeah. I agree, I
yeah.
agree, yeah.
Yeah, of
S
course. You're a playwright,
Right. Yeah, I absolutely get it. Um, yeah, and I definitely want to talk to you about, some things I think we kind of talked before about,
Mhm.
some ways, that our organizations can come together. One of the things I just
Joining
thought of,
forces.
yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I was thinking about that when you're talking about the imagery.
Mm.
And yeah, we can talk about it. So I'm thinking at my play to be able to maybe show
Yeah.
some of that imagery or
Oh, yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I
Yeah,
love
we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
great.
So is there anything else that you want to share? Anything else that you would like, to
Well,
say
I
to our
just
viewers?
wanna say, I really appreciate having this conversation with you. Um, I have this strong belief, which I didn't when I first started my healing process, of how important relationships between survivors
Mhm.
is part of our healing as well.
Yeah.
When I started out, I didn't want to know from anybody else. It was enough to know I had it. And I just more and more understand that being
Mhm.
in relationship with other survivors is part of my healing.
Yeah, for sure.
So
For sure.
it's nice
If,
to hear.
if for no other reason, just knowing that, because I know for so long, especially, in my youth, even though, like I said, I knew about a couple of other,
Right.
people, but it was something that we just didn't talk about. And, so I always just felt so sort of lonely in it. And,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so, yeah, just having that,
yeah.
with
And the
others.
truth is, we got a tribe,
Yeah.
a very
Mhm.
large one.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I really love that you've called me up and asked me to come do this with you.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that you did. It was great, actually getting to
Mm,
getting to talk to you, getting to hear from you.
Same here.
For sure. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then I'm going to close out. I'll remind everyone that this is pre-recorded. It will be available on social media, my Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Donna will have the link. Donna will also share it.
Yeah, I'll be
Um,
sharing it with my
yeah.
people. Yep.
Yeah, good, good. And
Yeah.
it will be available on my social media platforms tomorrow. That's Wednesday, December 14th, 2022 at 7 p.m. So I hope you all will tune in. And even though it's pre-recorded, you still can submit comments or questions if you like. So thanks again, Donna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're gonna talk about joining forces.
I like that.
Okay, talk to you soon.